Today we are honored to welcome Dr. Garrett Smith to the show. I'm very happy to have him on. He is very knowledgeable about bile detoxification. He talks a lot about nutrient deficiencies as well, but he helps many people in his practice and his knowledge to get the information out to take control of our health. So very excited to have him on. How are you today, man?
I'm good. I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm very interested to hear your story and how you got into health and wellness and how you're helping people today.
Well, yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So when I was younger, I got into fitness. I got into lifting weights at about 11 with some of those old Kmart concrete dumbbells in my house, and then that turned into more lifting and bodybuilding, and then obviously when you get into bodybuilding, that turns into nutrition. And through the years, like one of my first things I noticed about how nutrition, the two big things that drove me into nutrition and toxicity was one was when I was a kid. I think I was about 15 years old. I would drink a glass of milk. And by the time I was halfway through the glass of milk, I would notice I was starting to form a lot of phlegm and mucus. And I went, okay, so food affects how I feel. And then when I was about 18 or 19, I was doing a lot of bodybuilding type supplements, and I was getting these short migraine like headaches, and I couldn't figure out what they were from until I went on a trip to Canada with my family. There was a supplement store with a little magazine, and in the magazine they talked about how aspartame or NutraSweet Equal could give people headaches. And I'd been using that thinking it was healthy back then. And so I stopped using it and those headaches went away. So those were kind of the first two big things that led me towards what I'm doing today. I went to college and I was a personal trainer for about 12 years, got my degree in physiology and a minor in nutrition, and then went to naturopathic medical school after I figured out what I wanted to do. And then I've always kind of been a black sheep even among naturopathic physicians. I'm an absolute black sheep. I think a lot of the things that people are doing in conventional medicine and alternative medicine are really actually not good for people. And so we had to come up with one of the things I don't like about the health field is there are some people out there who are just saying everything is bad, but they're not really giving a way out. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on doing. Like, don't just say something's bad if there's no solution or there's nothing you can do about it. Then why don't we start figuring out what the solution is? And I kind of am, it'd be great if everybody could go off grid and go live off the land and do all that stuff. But people don't want to do that, and people can't do that. So we have to figure out how to live within the modern world, our toxic and deficient modern world. And so we're trying to help people to do that. So it just kind of went from fitness to nutrition to health. And I always wanted to help myself. And I had health issues starting generally in my teens. So over the years, I've helped myself fix my own psoriasis. I had prostate issues that started in my mid 20s. Got rid of those. Now I'm 50 and 25, I have prostate issues, and 50 I don't, which is not the way it's supposed to go for men. Had terrible chronic insomnia, got rid of that. Had chronic lower back pain, which I think was kidney related, got rid of that. Oh, and I'm pretty sure I had skin cancer on my jaw in about my late 30s, and I took care of that and haven't had anything come back like that since. So yeah, I've had my own share of health issues. I got into this to fix myself, and I realized that with personal training and nutrition, I was good at relaying it to others and taking what I had experienced and turning it into something that other people could use, even if this is one of the things, not everybody's exactly the same as me. A lot of influencers and practitioners out there think everybody is exactly the same. We are different. We're all cars, but we're different models of cars. So that's the way I look at it. Everybody's similar but different. And that's one of the key things to helping people fix themselves, is not just assuming that everybody does the same thing. So that's kind of the basics of how I got here.
I love it, man. So it sounds like you got into it through your own journey, your own health issues, and a lot of experimentation. You actually saw results with natural medicine. Do I have that right?
Yeah, natural medicine. And a lot of it is the thing that people don't realize in this modern world is that so many people are willing to add things. They'll buy a new tech thing. They'll buy a new supplement. They'll buy a new mattress. They'll buy new things, thinking that adding more things is the key. And the challenge for everybody is we actually tend to get more results when we take out the things that are bad for us. So once we actually know, this is for me, once I name a problem, let's say that I have, and I figure out what the issue is, then I start looking for solutions. And the biggest solutions are actually the thing that people don't do is the thing they probably need to do. And most people aren't taking things out. And that's a huge thing. That's just one example with toxins. Like they're literally toxins. I mean, some people are like, the word toxin is overused. And I absolutely think that's true. But if you take a toxin out, first of all, it's never in your body to cause any damage. Second of all, your body doesn't have to use energy and nutrients to detox it. Third, your body can't store it because your body absolutely stores toxins. And it's just, you make it so you don't have to deal with it. Like it's a toxin that you never have to deal with, never hurts you, never depletes you. And that's the key thing that people can take out of their lives is taking out these toxins as opposed to constantly trying to do cleanses and detoxes and do all this stuff to remove them. Because a toxin that never comes in doesn't have to be dealt with. So that's one of the biggest things about fixing people's health is knowing what is toxic and then knowing how to either reduce or minimize or eliminate their exposure to it. And then their body can use the energy and the nutrients that it has, the resources that it has to get rid of the old stuff that's still stuck in it. So the priority is always getting rid of things, but that's the thing that people tend to leave out.
Love it, man. Yeah, because the body is designed to heal itself. As you just mentioned, like a lot of times we just have to get out of the way. It comes down to elimination, right? And then the body just heals itself.
Yes. Yeah. That's one of the things that we have more, my group of people and me have faith in is that the body can absolutely heal itself. And our main thing to do, I mean, of course, I do not deny that, like, let's say if somebody has bad posture or bad biomechanics or bad whatever, that these or bad mental, emotional patterns, that those affect people, right? But our body is, a biochemical kind of meat sack, and toxins get in the way of it running right, and nutrient deficiencies get in the way of it running right. So you need somebody may be a terrible driver, but if they want to drive their car, they still need the gas and they still need to get the car, cleaned up and maintained. The car has to still run even before they can drive it. So I tend to think that the biochemical stuff is critical because we have to eat, we have to drink, we have to do all these things during the day. So if those aren't right, we can't expect our biochemical brain to run right if things aren't right, or at least working well enough. We can kind of focus on things to make things seem better for a while, but as soon as we forget to focus on it, everything comes back because it's the soup that we're literally running through our system. So yeah, we've had, actually I just talked to a guy the other day who got off, I think a client of mine who just got off 4 rheumatoid arthritis meds, and he's only got a little bit of inflammation left. We've got several people who said their celiac disease went away. We've got a lady who fixed her cirrhosis, which her liver doctor had never heard of such a thing. We've got another guy who fixed his chronic kidney disease that was the next stage was dialysis for this gentleman. And now his kidney function is totally back to normal. So we absolutely believe that the body can heal itself. And like the saying of getting out of its way, right? We got to give it what it needs and not put in what it doesn't. And it will fix most of the things itself. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, man. And you also mentioned personalized medicine. I think that's key because as you know, like a lot of people just kind of give people this cookie cutter thing and it doesn't work, right? It may work for some people, but then we're not really personalizing it to their needs. And it seems like you really caught on to that and you do that in your own practice, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't absolutely. I mean, one of the things that people love about my work is I'm actually I don't like get mad at people, but I will correct them when they say I'm doing your protocol. And I'm like, we don't do protocols. Protocols are like a recipe. It's like the recipe is laid out and you follow the recipe. And if you don't, then they'll say, oh, you're not following the recipe, right? You failed the program because you didn't do it. Well, I get some of the sickest people out there. People who have been to all the big name doctors, and they all tell them you have to do this. And they try it and they feel terrible. We get some of the most sensitive people. I get people who, I do make and sell supplements of the stuff that I think is useful. And I have people come in who can't take any of it. They absolutely react to everything. And I'm the first one people will know on my live streams. And when I talk to them, I'm like, stop taking it, or take less, or take it out for a while and maybe try it again later. Like, just don't do it. If the saying goes, if doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. Like, it's very simple. Like, you're not getting along with it right now. The thoughts on it, the theories could be, oh, it might be speeding up. Like, detox is a nasty process, right? It's like being a garbage man. Being a garbage man, the garbage man comes home filthy. It's part of the job, right? So the body, as it's cleaning up, it's a dirty job. Like, it's a toxin on the way in, it's a toxin on the way out. So we have to be careful with getting rid of it. It's like nuclear waste, right? The people who are transporting the nuclear waste have to be very, very careful, or they could ruin a whole area. Not nuclear stuff is a whole nother story in the conspiracy world. But anyway, I'm just using the example. So yeah, we gotta do it slowly. And let's say some of the supplements would speed up detox too fast. There's too much garbage coming out into the system and then making people feel bad. I don't tend to believe in the Herxheimer reactions and the other stuff. It's just people are either taking something, when they think they have a Herxheimer reaction, they're either taking something toxic, literally. A lot of natural remedies, and obviously pharmaceuticals are toxic, and then, or they're just pushing detox too hard. And so we have them slow it down. That's one of the other things I'll tell people do. I'm like, you're just going too fast. People get very, how do I put it? I'll say it, impatient or greedy. They want to get better. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I tell them, this is the way out. And they go, oh, well, I'll just do extra of that. And I'm like, no, you're here because your system is running slow. And you can't just put a turbocharger on your broken down old lawnmower engine in a Volkswagen Beetle and expect it to run like a sports car. You have to build yourself back up to a sports car. So yeah, the individualized part of it, I'm huge on that. And people come to me and they tell me, thank you for letting me figure this out on my own and giving me signs and signals to watch for, to know when I'm doing too much or when I shouldn't do that anymore. And people now, they'll be like, well, I took this supplement for a while. I felt great on it. And all of a sudden I can't take it anymore. Okay, stop doing it. Like, let's figure that out. Or it's just something your body has to go through. We will never know all of the inner workings of this sack of meat we have. We can watch the output though, and then we can judge. What we generally have is a framework of things that we think are good for the body over time, and we have a framework of things that we think are bad for the body over time. The things that we think are good, people may not be able to do at the start. And let's say somebody's system is really addicted to something at the start, and we can't just, like, if a true alcoholic, like, you yank alcohol away from them, they could literally die. So do we want to do that? No, we don't want anybody to die. So we'd have to go slower. We actually have to take the toxin out more slowly. Like when people take out their meds, like the gentleman who took out his 4 rheumatoid arthritis meds, he didn't take them all out at once. He did them one at a time as he saw he was improving, and he realized that he didn't need that one anymore, or that one wasn't doing anything anymore. So he just took them out as he felt able to. And that's another thing we give people the self-responsibility for, is like, you don't have to take a damn thing any doctor says to take. You don't have to take the prescriptions they give you. It's your choice. If you believe that your doctor is like the shaman or the god and he tells you what to do and you have to listen, this work isn't for you. We're here to give people personal power back so they can decide what to take and what not to. And they can watch, did it actually ever help me, or did it just make me feel worse? So yeah, that's a big thing with us. So we can call it individualized medicine. I don't really call it anything. I just say we're listening to your body, and we have like a map of where we want to get. This is an analogy I use a lot. So lab testing versus symptoms or responses by the body. So I think of like Google Maps when I'm talking about this, because people get that. So think of your health is here right now, and we want your health to be here. Or we could say your lab test is here right now, and we want you to be here. Now, if you were looking at Google Maps, there might be 8 different routes that you could take to get from here to here. There's 8 different routes. Which route is the one that your body would do best on? Well, we have to try things. And you take this turn and you see that, oh, that's not going so well. Okay, let's go this way. let's try something else and let's go this way. So the map, we know where we want to go. We just have to pick and decide and change as we go about the route on how to get there. So that's a big thing that I talk about a lot. So yeah, that's the gist of it.
I love it, man. That's what it's all about. You talk about toxicity a lot as well. Can you go into the toxic bile paradigm and what that entails?
Yeah, the toxic bile paradigm, this is kind of what I believe will be my big contribution to the world. Okay, so I'm going to give you the quick basics of it. Most people, when they hear about bile, they only hear about it in an alternative sense, like from alternative type practitioners. And they just think it's something that helps you digest fat. And it helps you digest fats and emulsifies fats so you can absorb them better. Okay. And then people really only have problems with their bile. Even if you get into the most alternative stuff, they'll say, oh, your bile is too thick and sludgy. Or like for people who get their gallbladder removed, oh, they ate a high fat meal and they're not absorbing their bile, and so they get diarrhea. Like that's about the gist of how far most alternative practitioners go, even into bile in the conventional world. Only cares about bile when people are like super duper duper sick and they have obvious liver problems. Well, toxic bile paradigm is like, okay, so when, let's say somebody feels bad at the same time every day, what is causing that? We started to go into how is the body self-poisoning itself? Like, why do these symptoms come on? And people say, oh, it's stress. Well, they don't realize stress hormones are actually anti-inflammatory. So why should we feel worse when we get stressed? That doesn't make any sense. That's why they give cortisone drugs. They're anti-inflammatory. So why would those make us feel worse? It doesn't make sense. But what does stress do? Well, let's get into the bile theory, toxic bile paradigm. Your liver makes bile. Your liver is the main source of detox for your entire body. What does the liver do? And people have this messed up, that the new health influencers have screwed up the whole idea of what the liver does. First of all, they'll say the liver is not a filter. The liver is absolutely a filter. By definition, it's a filter, right? The blood goes through the liver. The liver takes stuff out of it so it can use its detox pathways on it. And then the rest of the blood goes through. Think of what a water filter does, right? Bad water goes through the filter. The filter takes the stuff out of it. And then good water comes through. So by definition, people say, oh, the kidneys are filters. And I'm like, the kidneys are filters. The liver is a filter too, by definition. So the liver grabs stuff out of the blood so it can process it. Okay. The liver is also a storage depot. And this is another thing denied by a lot of influencers. The liver, you can go and look up. I was going to do this just because of the time I was going to take. I was going to go through Chat GPT and look at all these toxins in the body and find out where the highest concentrations are found in the kidneys and liver. We'll go through all the toxic metals, we'll go through all the big fat soluble toxins, we'll go through all of it. And I know we're going to find the highest concentrations in the body will almost always be in the liver. And if they're not highest in the liver, they'll be in the kidneys. Detox organs, right? If you were to say, well, where's the most toxins found in water found in your house? Well, it would be the water filter, right? The water filter is literally taking the toxins out and holding on to them. So that's where it would be highest. So it makes sense that the liver would have the highest amounts of toxins and then followed by the kidneys. So the liver is actually a storage depot for toxins. It stores these toxins, not because it wants them, but because it can't get rid of them fast enough. If you had too much work, like you have a job and you have jobs to do, if you could not finish the jobs that you're assigned, they just stack up. You still have to do them. You're just falling behind and they're stacking up. Well, that's exactly what happens in the liver. The liver says, I can't process these toxins right now. However, the liver can help you survive by pulling them out of the blood and holding on to them for a while. In a less toxic world, in theory, if you got exposed to a toxin, you stored that toxin, whether it was in your liver or in your body fat, because your body fat stores toxins. This is something to think about for people who are getting into eating lots of, let's say, tallow right now. Where do cows store their fat-soluble toxins? In their fat. Do you really want to eat factory-farmed tallow? It's got tons of fat-soluble toxins in it. I don't. But that's a whole other idea that people have to understand is fat-soluble toxins are not just in our environment, but they're in the the animals you eat environment. And where do the animals store those? In their fat and in their liver. So anyway, so the liver's a storage depot, and it holds onto these things so it doesn't float around in your blood and kill you, like literally make you sicker and kill you. And then the third thing that the liver does is it is what I call a sewage processing plant. It takes things that are toxic and processes them into other things. Key thing to understand about this that a lot of people leave out is the liver can take those toxins and turn them into more toxic things or less toxic things. Key example of this is alcohol, ethanol. Ethanol by itself is not what causes hangovers. Ethanol itself is not what causes people to die of alcohol poisoning. What causes those things is acetaldehyde, which is the first thing that ethanol or alcohol is turned into. So literally, when we drink alcohol, we turn it into something more toxic as part of the detox process. And that is what could harm us. That is what makes us feel bad. So that's a key example of this, what we call biotransformation or intoxification, as opposed to detoxification. Intoxification is making something worse. So that's what the liver does. So if the liver does all these things, if it's storing these toxins, it's filtering these toxins out, it's turning them into stuff, how does the thing that people mistake is they say the liver detoxes stuff. And I think the way they tend to interpret it is that the liver these toxins hit the liver and the liver just makes them go poof and disappear. Well, that doesn't happen at all. That doesn't make any sense. What the liver does is it takes those toxins and it's going to do two things with them. It's either going to put them into the bile. I call the bile, another term for it, so that people understand it. The bile is the liver's poop. Does it do more things than just carry toxins? Yes. But this is the main way the liver gets rid of the toxins that it has in it. And another place where those toxins can go is they can leak into the bloodstream. Multiple ways. We'll go over those. But those toxins going in your bloodstream would make you feel bad. Okay, so then the bile goes from the liver into, it can go to the gallbladder, and then we want it to go into your intestines and go down the intestines. That's important, so that you can poop it out. A standard American diet is said to, a person eating a standard American diet is said to get rid of only about 5% of the bile that they make a day. So you're pooping out a standard American diet, they're pooping out about 5% of their bile. What happens to the other 95%? It's reabsorbed by your guts. This is another key thing that people don't understand. Your guts are going to absorb good stuff and bad stuff. So whatever's in there, they're absorbing it. Just like whatever you put on your skin, you put toxic stuff on your skin. Sunscreen, they've shown all 8 major sunscreen chemicals in the bloodstream the day after people use sunscreen. 24 hours after, they could show every single one of the chemicals they put on with the sunscreen was in their blood. You absorb things. Your body's made to absorb things. So this is why avoiding toxins is so important. So then the bile goes into your guts. You're reabsorbing it. You're pooping out about 5%. Now, the stuff you do reabsorb goes right back to the liver through the portal vein. So if everything was sealed up properly, there was no leaks, it would be a closed system. You'd either poop out some, or it would come right back to the liver. The liver would then process it again. So the liver then has to do its job again on the same toxicity and then try to get it out. Do that way, okay? So then, where does toxic bile paradigm fit into this? Okay. As the bile becomes more toxic, this is in the literature, the bile can actually eat holes in the very cells of the liver that make it. The bile can eat holes in the little teeny tiny bile ducts in the liver. The bile can eat holes in the big bile ducts. And even in the gallbladder itself, the bile can eat holes in your intestinal lining. We have a lot of people out there who talk a lot about leaky gut, right? Intestinal permeability is the research term. But they never seem to talk about how it happens, or they'll just say this causes it. And I'm like, do you have evidence of that? And they go, no. I just like gluten. I'll say gluten causes leaky gut. That's not true. Because if it did, then it should cause leaky gut in everybody. And it doesn't. The bile can actually literally eat holes in your intestinal lining. We call that leaky gut. If the bile goes backwards up into your stomach, it can eat holes there. We call that ulcers. If the bile goes up into your esophagus enough, it can eat holes and tear through your esophagus. That's called Barrett's esophagus. If the bile gets up into your mouth enough because of reflux or it's in your blood and in your saliva. Then it starts to give you yellow teeth. What color is bile? Bile is yellow for the most part. So if it creates these holes, it then leaks into your bloodstream. And so you've now taken your liver's poop and it has leaked into your bloodstream. Do you think we would feel good if we were absorbing toxins directly into our bloodstream that our liver was saying, we want to get rid of this? We want to keep it in this closed circle. We want to poop out as much of it as we can, but we're going to keep it in this closed loop. But if it leaks out of the loop, then we get disease symptoms. It's like a self-poisoning. So what we do as part of my approach is, first of all, we start putting fewer toxins in, because fewer toxins in means that there's going to be less toxins that the liver has to put in the bile, or the liver can work on old stored toxins to put those in the bile and then get rid of them. So that's one thing. We reduce or minimize or avoid toxins. And this is one of the things that people don't understand is the more toxic you are, the slower your detox runs. Just like the more gunked up your car engine gets, the worse it runs, the more energy you have to use to run it at the same speed, or just generally, it just doesn't run as well. So the more toxic you are, the slower your detox. So one of the first things we can do, we can't always speed up detox. That's not always a good idea. We can slow down the input of toxins so that, just like that pile of papers, if you're still doing work, but you're not having as many jobs come in, then you can catch up on the pile. That's a key thing there. So the next thing about like that 5% of bile that you poop out, we can use things we call binders to help you literally poop out. They grab onto your bile and they grab onto the toxins to literally help you poop out more bile. So we're getting rid of more bile every time you poop. And then we want to make sure you're pooping, because a lot of people aren't pooping very well. So we do things like soluble fiber adsorbs bile. The key word is adsorb there. It's not absorb, but it's adsorb. And then activated charcoal can adsorb bile and help you poop out more. This is in the literature. And then we also use something called zeolite. Never liquid zeolites, only the powder, only clean zeolite. Key things to the zeolite thing. Zeolite is a topic that is very misunderstood, and people are selling all sorts of things out there that don't work or may actually not be good for people. It's very simple to know. Powder, it must be cleaned. It needs to be cleaned. And then you can use it, and it absorbs all sorts of stuff. And we've had great results with our zeolite with a Y product. So we help the body poop out more bile. So that's first thing is we reduce our exposure to toxins. Second thing is we facilitate the removal of stored toxins. And then the third thing is we correct nutrient deficiencies. Now, people out there think that there's tons of nutrients that they have to deal with. They're actually not correct. Most of the vitamins are basically a scam, and we need very few of the very basic minerals like zinc and selenium and molybdenum and magnesium and potassium and some calcium. And if you get those, you're going to be pretty good to go if you get those in the right amounts. We don't have to worry about, I always joke with people about, they'll say, oh, but my Trace Minerals has 84 minerals in it. And I'm like, do you realize we only need, even people who think we need tons of minerals, they might say we need like 20 minerals. So if we only need 20 minerals, what are the other 64 minerals? They're toxic metals, possibly radioactive metals. You don't want those things. So we have to get into a point of saying, one of the things we emphasize is, like, if you want water, we want to make sure, like, every single municipal water supply in this country, every single city water supply has been shown to have rocket fuel in it, just as one example. Literally rocket fuel in the water. You need water. Some people will say, oh, but I want to drink the tap water because it's got calcium and magnesium in it, and I want to get the minerals. And I'm like, you don't want rocket fuel. We know that. We don't want it. You don't want to be drinking birth control pills and SSRIs in your water and blood pressure medications, because those are all in the water. So what we've come to is we would rather make sure the things that we are taking in are cleaner rather than dirtier, like sea salt, microplastics. Like there's all sorts of microplastics in sea salts. And as far as I know, all the oceans are connected. So stuff is exchanging between them. There is no clean water in the ocean anymore. So that means the fish and the seafood is marinating and breathing and just basically being made of all these toxins in the water. And land animals don't have that issue as much because they're not breathing the same stuff that, it's not in the air as much for animals. But anyway, we would rather have things be cleaner and then potentially take in what we need. If we need to supplement things, we'd rather take in like cleaner water, cleaner salt, cleaner minerals than take in other things that are full of toxins, like toxic metals and other stuff like that, just because it's more natural. I wish the world wasn't this way. I wish we could trust these things, but we can't. So we assume that we need to clean or get clean variations of these things. So that's basically, so toxic bile paradigm is the idea that most of our health issues are from a self-poisoning loop that we are not escaping because we didn't know how, and now we're working on that. And then we're seeing really intense disease states get better in people who are following the general guidelines. It's not a quick thing. I don't want anybody who hears me talk to think that I have some quick fix. Like some people come on the program and they start eating, the way we say, and they're like, but doc, my blood sugar's not doing well on this. I say, you may not be ready for the whole thing yet. Like in a certain way, you're a broken car. Like you don't go to the racetrack yet. You may need to drive around the neighborhood and just slowly get better at driving before you start amping it up. So yeah, we have to, some people think that just because they do the program, like they're all fixed. And it's like, no, we're talking years. But we can see improvements very quickly. Some people see improvements in 2 weeks. Some people see it in a month or 3 months. But to really get rid of the big things, people have to realize they've been poisoning themselves their entire lives. A lot of times in what they think is the name of health. Like health nuts are some of the sickest people we know, aren't they? Like you go into Whole Foods or Trader Joe's and you think you're going into a healthy grocery store and everybody there looks sick too. So, because a lot of people who think they're doing healthy things are doing things that are exactly not healthy. We'll get into that. But yeah, it's really, people have been misled and they think that lots of things are healthy for them that aren't. And then we get into this self-poisoning loop, and then to get out of it, it takes a while. I mean, I think 80% of kids are born jaundiced these days. That means their liver, they're already behind the 8 ball. Like their liver function is not good from when they were born. And then you have people saying that these same people, they're like, I've been sick my entire life. Well, their liver never caught up from when they were born. And what is jaundice? It's bilirubin in their blood accumulating in their skin because it's going through their blood. Well, bilirubin is bilirubin. It's literally bile leaking into their blood, causing them jaundice. So if toxic bile paradigm is right, and 80% of the kids today are being born with jaundice, 80% of the kids today are leaking bile into their blood. They're born with a toxic bile problem. And so then we're working on undoing it. And we can have people who've been sick their entire lives getting better and doing amazing things with their health just because we're finally addressing the cause. So that's that.
I love it, man. It's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So you also talk about vitamin toxicity as well. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, we can get into that. I've been kind of one of the big guys really promoting this. Well, I'll start with vitamin D. Vitamin D supplements. Okay. Vitamin D supplements, cholecalciferol, is literally sold. You can go to the grocery store or wherever you might buy your rat poison, and you can find that the baits there are often made of cholecalciferol. So people are literally taking rat poison for a health supplement. If you go into the research, you can find that back in I think it was the 40s and 50s, they started adding vitamin D to foods, and they had a rash of babies and little infants dying from adding vitamin D to food. So people will say, oh, well, that's too much for humans, but it kills rats because they're like nocturnal. I'm like, no, it's literally killed humans. There are case studies of dairy companies, milk companies, accidentally adding too much vitamin D to their milk and killing children. There are more and more stories today of people taking too much vitamin D and giving themselves kidney failure or literally killing themselves. We look back in South Africa during the apartheid days, and there was literally research going on there where they were testing out whether vitamin D could be used as a genocidal tool. Because when you're talking about vitamin D, you're talking about micrograms that could potentially be toxic. Dogs, lots of dogs go to the veterinarian every year because they eat these rat baits, and the dogs start to get kidney failure. So it's literally killing dogs too. So we have this problem of supposedly, now for those of you who are into the religious side of things, they will say that vitamin D is sunshine in a pill. And then there's also this term about false light out there. So we have sunshine in a pill and we have false light. That's actually rat poison. So it's very interesting connections. Now, I'm a big advocate of people getting out into the sun, or even during these months that are happening now, the colder months, of getting like a sun lamp, like a Spurdy, or even using tanning beds. I think the demonization of tanning beds was done by the pharmaceutical companies, because they want you to buy. I mean, pharmaceutical companies make sunscreens. Pharmaceutical companies, you actually can oxidize toxins in your skin via the sun. Toxins are typically oxidized. The sun is an oxidizer. And we generally see that people who live on beaches and sunny areas are healthier than people who live in dreary, cold, rainy, cloudy areas. So we start to go, the sun is actually good for us, but they told us it was bad. Now, could too much sun be bad for you? Yes, absolutely. The more toxic you are, the more the sun could be bad for you, because again, it can speed up detox too fast. But anyway, so that's vitamin D in a nutshell. We get people off vitamin D. We don't put them on it, but we have them do, as an example, what do we have people do for their vitamin D status, if you will? We have them, people don't realize, well, we'll get into vitamin A in a second, but vitamin A is actually an antagonist to vitamin D. That means they function, they work against each other. This is all over the research. Okay, so if I were to say that we have a vitamin A toxicity epidemic, which is in the literature, but we also have supposedly a vitamin D deficiency epidemic, well, that makes sense. If vitamin A is antagonistic to vitamin D, and I'm saying, we can show in liver biopsy studies that there's tons of people who are absolutely vitamin A toxic, and that works against your vitamin D in your body, then we have a plausible mechanism. Okay, so we have vitamin A toxicity. Then we have a lack of sunlight or UV light. Tons of people just spend all day indoors and they don't go outside, or they go outside, like our most toxic people, they'll say they'll go out in the sun for 5 minutes. They feel terrible all day. They're really, really toxic. It's not that the sun is bad for them. It's that the sun interacting with the toxins in their skin is too much for them. So there's the UV light. And then we just simply have them not take vitamin D supplements. That's one of our things. And then we have them we restore their zinc levels. Zinc is critical for vitamin D function in the body. We restore their magnesium levels. Magnesium is critical for vitamin D function in the body. And then we make sure that, depending upon the person, very individualized, that they are getting enough calcium, preferably always from foods. Calcium from supplements is a disaster. I go over that in the live stream, where calcium from supplements starts leading into increased risk of death very, very quickly. So we are extremely careful with calcium. And how does vitamin D supplements the cholecalciferol in rat poison? How does it kill rats? It kills them by causing hypercalcemia. It literally leaches vitamin D out of their bones, which is actually the opposite of what we're told, right? We're told vitamin D fixes bones. But vitamin D as a rat poison literally yanks calcium out of the bones. The blood has too much calcium in it. It causes problems with the coagulation pathways and with the heart, and they literally bleed out from the inside because there's too much calcium in their blood. So that's how and we don't have any problems with bleeding problems today, do we? Or hypercalcemia with people getting arthritis. And if you look in any disease state, just about, and you look at the radiology of it, how are diseases diagnosed by X-ray or by CT scan? One of the first things they see is calcium deposits. So if you have too much calcium in your blood, which vitamin D supplements are one thing that can cause that, you start calcifying places for the body to get, again, like the liver takes toxins out of the blood, your body will take calcium out of the blood and put it into soft tissues, your brain, your heart, your blood vessels, your liver, your kidneys. It will do that to protect you because too much calcium in your blood can literally kill you. So it will put it into your soft tissues to keep you alive. One of the key things we do is we assume the body is intelligent. And so if you are poisoning it, it will do the best things that it can to stay alive. And it will pick what we call the slow death, the slow calcification as an example, over the quick death, which would be too much calcium in your blood, causing your heart or your brain to basically shut down and not function right, or your coagulation system not work. So that's vitamin D. Then we get into vitamin A. This is kind of a long one, but vitamin A, in my opinion, is not a vitamin. And if we need any of it, it's in minuscule amounts. There's a gentleman Grant Genereux has been doing it for 7 years or 10 years. Matt Stone's been doing it for 7 years. Extremely low intakes. I've been doing it for 7 years. Very low intakes of vitamin A. And the people who are getting enough zinc, especially, are not showing any issues at all. So vitamin A is sold to us pharmaceutically as retinoic acids. Retinoic acids include Accutane, or isotretinoin is the other name for it. Retin-A as tretinoin. One of the other forms of retinoic acid that's found in the body from when people eat vitamin A and it goes through the detox process is 9-trans-retinoid. 9-trans-retinoic acid. Or is it 9-cis? It's 9-cis, I think. Anyway, I got those flipped. But anyway, that's used as chemotherapy. So we've got Accutane, and they actually literally, if people eat vitamin A, scientists can literally analyze the blood. They can find Accutane in your blood, the same compound as Accutane. They can find Accutane in your blood. They can find it in your urine. They can find Retin-A in your blood. They can find 9-cis-retinoic acid in your blood. So you're literally, when you eat vitamin A, you are taking effectively these medications. People will say, oh, the natural version is not the same as the synthetic version. And we go, prove it. Like, go to the chemists and show that somehow the structure of these things is literally different. Like, you can go and challenge all of chemistry. Go and do it. I don't think you're going to find that when they look for these things in the blood, they don't look for a synthetic form and look for a natural form. They are looking for the form. There's a really weird thing today about people trying to say that, like, certain natural things are good and everything synthetic or unnatural is bad. And I mean, generally, is that true? Generally, it's not a bad, it's a pretty darn good algorithm to run your life by. However, it's not always true. They're not always different, is what I mean. So, Accutane, the highest number of sexual side effects in ages 12 to 17 in the VAERS database. Like, it is ruining the fertility of our children. For those who are into the idea that there may be conspiracies out there to reduce fertility, then this is one thing they might think of. Dermatologists are giving out Retin-A like crazy to people, and it's causing all sorts of problems. But let me get to the thing about retinoic acid. So we talked about leaky gut. One of the ways your body gets rid of vitamin A, because it doesn't want it, and this is in the literature, your body will put vitamin A into the bile. Vitamin A at some point turns into retinoic acid. Okay, so what is retinoic acid used for in dermatology? As a peel. It's used as a chemical peel. They call it a yellow peel. It is the all-trans retinoic acid, also known as Retin-A. So they rub the yellow peel on women's faces, or typically women's faces, but I mean, men can do it too. It's yellow, and it literally dissolves the upper layers of skin cells, and then your body it also causes the lower levels of skin cells to speed up their reproduction. So by doing that, you're taking off the old skin and you're making new skin faster. And so they look better. Well, what do you think happens if day after day after day after day, you have you're putting a chemical peel literally on your intestines via eating vitamin A and having it turn into a chemical peel? It's leaky gut. It's what it is. So we get into the bile causing leaky gut. We get into vitamin A actually literally causing leaky gut. The whole way I came up with toxic bile paradigm was first figuring out that vitamin A was a toxin. And then Anthony Mawson, great researcher, I think he was at Louisiana State University. He came out with a bunch of papers showing that a lot of these disease symptoms, he had like 34 papers, match exactly with retinoic acid toxicity. And he was saying that the vitamin A was leaking out of the liver into the bloodstream, and that's what was causing these disease symptoms. Well, I thought, why would it just be vitamin A? And then we started getting into the bile and cholestasis. Cholestasis means bile leaking into places it's not supposed to be. Cola is bile, stasis is stagnation. But as you know, like if a creek or a river gets blocked up or gets too stagnant, it starts backing up into places it's not supposed to be. That's exactly what we're talking about here. So anyway, that's the vitamin A connection. It's what we found is we have had several people who got their serum retinol, their blood vitamin A, down to basically as close to zero as they measure. And they don't have any vitamin A deficiency problems. So then we start going, okay, so is it really a vitamin? And then we get into vitamin A goes through the exact same detox pathways as alcohol does. Literally. So we know ethanol is a toxin. Ethanol turns into acetaldehyde, turns into acetic acid. Ethanol to acetaldehyde goes through an enzyme called ADH, alcohol dehydrogenase, and acetaldehyde to acetic acid goes through an enzyme called ALDH, aldehyde dehydrogenase. Okay? Retinol is an alcohol. That's why it has an OL at the end. So retinol goes through ADH, the exact same enzyme. It turns into retinaldehyde. Aldehydes are generally not good for us. So we're going to try to say that this vitamin is an aldehyde. Aldehydes are generally not good for us, but this one is necessary for us to live and be healthy. And then retinaldehyde goes through ALDH to turn into retinoic acid, which is the pharmaceutical forms and the most toxic forms of vitamin A out there. So one is a vitamin and absolutely necessary for our existence, and yet one is a toxin, but they go through the same detox pathways. Why is a vitamin going through a detox pathway, first of all? Shouldn't we be trying to keep it? And then if we know that toxins accumulate in the liver, and vitamin A accumulates in the liver, and when you accumulate too much vitamin A in the liver, you get massive diseases, we have a problem. We've seen patterns. And then there have been studies back into the 50s, and I have multiple countries over multiple years. There was a recent study on US, they had people who died and they were looking at their liver because they can't do a liver biopsy. They won't do a liver biopsy on a living person to assess their vitamin A status. It's considered unethical. So they wait until people, they do studies where they get enough dead bodies, and they're going to do you call it a necropsy or an autopsy, but they analyze the liver tissue. 27 Americans, they found that full 1/3 of them, 9 of the 27, died of various causes, had literal gold standard diagnosable vitamin A toxicity in their liver. 1 out of 3 Americans. You can go back to studies in Africa where they say vitamin A deficiency is everywhere. Studies in Africa in the 1950s, again, cadaver studies, the gold standard for vitamin A toxicity studies, where they took chunks of their liver, they analyzed it. 50% of the African livers they looked at back in the 50s were vitamin A toxic. So we start to go this, and then people say there's no such thing as a toxicity epidemic. And I go, you know that the World Health Organization defines an epidemic as at like, I think it was 20% was where there's like great concern. And we have 33% in America now and 50% in Africa back then. And there's all sorts of stuff along the way. I think in Singapore, in the white community that they looked at in Singapore, there was something like 29% back in like the 80s. So it's been around a long time. So we just know. And then the weird thing is in the literature, they will say over and over again that your blood level of vitamin A does not reflect your liver level of vitamin A. So people could literally be low in their blood and be high in their liver and vice versa. So they're still using blood tests to assess this when they actually say the blood test is close to useless. And then they'll just say that they keep finding deficiency. And they're not finding it at all. The liver's just fine. They only find vitamin A deficiency in malnourished countries, by the way. They're always people who never eat meat. That's where they find vitamin A deficiency. Well, the key thing there is what they find is when you give people enough zinc and enough protein and enough taurine, three things that are mainly found in meat that malnourished country people don't get hardly any of, they see that the vitamin A level comes up to normal. But they didn't eat any vitamin A. So how did that happen? Oh, it was stored in their liver. So that's vitamin A. Then the final thing, I know I've been talking a lot on these, but copper toxicity. There's a huge push in the alternative community right now for people to take more and more copper. As I have gone along in practice, I have now realized that copper toxicity is probably the worst of all of them, and it takes the longest to get rid of. People try to talk about copper deficiency all the time, and I will say, show it to me, because I see copper levels on blood tests and hair tests all the time, and they aren't deficient at all. And it takes years to get the levels down. Literally takes years. And then as we get it down, people feel better. So, but vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity tend to go together. I can show you on blood tests. They absolutely move up and down together. So copper is a really bad thing. So don't be drinking out of copper cups and wearing copper bracelets and wearing copper clothing. And oh my gosh, like it's pretty nasty. And copper accumulates in people and you're in the liver to a great extent. So those are kind of the three big things that I work on. We work on all sorts of other things. People try to pigeonhole me as the vitamin A toxicity guy, and we work on all sorts of things. I'm not just vitamin A toxicity. But yeah, those are the big, other than obviously we're trying to get people not to eat glyphosate, Roundup. We're trying to get people to avoid, we don't usually eat fish or shellfish because it's all full of mercury and it's all full of microplastics. So whatever good you think is coming out of it, you are literally poisoning yourself. Joe Rogan poisoned himself with sardines. He got arsenic toxicity from sardines. So we tend to not eat things that are swimming and breathing toxins all day. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
I love it, man. Those are some profound insights for sure. All right, Dr. Smith, this has been amazing. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story with us, and all your knowledge, man. You're so in the know of these things. You're so wise, and it's really interesting to watch because someone who's developed a level of mastery, they can really kind of make complex topics and make them simple, which is exactly what you have done, man. So I appreciate you. And if people want to get connected with you, where can we find you?
Okay, so yeah, our main website is nutritiondetective.com, and that's where people can find all of our links, our social media links, and we have consultations. I have several health facilitators who help people go through their blood tests and their hair tests, and then we have our supplement line. People can find me on the big place where I'm at is YouTube. I'm actually going to do my own live stream today. YouTube is just Nutrition Detective, no space. They can find me on Twitter at NutriDetect, NutriDetect. We're going to be doing a big push. We're starting a big social media push very soon. You can find me on Instagram at the.realnutritiondetective. Same thing on Facebook, the.realnutritiondetective. I actually don't know the TikTok off the top of my head because we haven't done much there yet, but that's going to be our next big push. And Substack, you could find me at Dr. Garrett Smith on Substack. And yeah, you can sign up for our free, one last thing, our free email course. If people wanted to get more of a taste of what we do, we have about a 17 email course. You can sign up for that at either the main website, there's the thing up at the top, or at madnessofmodernnutrition.com. So that's how people can find me. Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.